Oh, we are now live. Everybody's mic is live. Man, my computer is really hating me this morning and every day because all the computers want to do is take over and destroy us. Welcome to Art of Rock. Every Saturday we come here and we talk about stuff. Today we're talking about hi-hats. Although I got a feeling that's going to go awry because hi-hats go awry. Every Saturday, join us here, Art of Rock, on this Zoom location. I'm really sorry. My computer is so slow right now. It's like dreadful. I don't think I can even type anything. And my screen's just... Oh, come on. Oh, my God. What is going on? Screw it. Come on. Come on. All right, look. Fuck this shit. Welcome to Art of Rock. I'm just going to put stuff in as it comes available. We're talking about hi-hats. We're just going to jump straight into it because now everything is crashing. Yay for crashing! Hi-hats. Because we talked about kick drums, we talked about snares, and we're going to talk about hi-hats because hi-hats carry a lot of that groove. So, does anybody want to jam for a bit about hi-hats and the importance thereof? Where's he go?
I happen to be working on one this past 2 weeks, a song that does not have hi-hats. Which, interestingly enough, I think they're possibly one of the most expressive of the three we've talked about so far, given the amount of pressures and controls you have over them. But they're also, in some ways, the most optional, because if you've got like shakers or some sort of maybe a castanet sharp sound or some sort of maraca or anything like that that's got that kind of upper frequency thing to carry the groove, or an acoustic guitar strumming away on, we're also out of the realm of quarter notes now and solidly into eighths and sixteenths. But at any rate, this particular tune right now, the high frequency eighth note subdivision groove is being carried by a pair of acoustic guitar parts. That's just my data point, but I think like 99% of everything else I work on has some sort of hi-hat component on the sizzle area of the frequency spectrum and imparting groove with some sort of expression in the hi-hats. Whether I think I'm going to trust that Adam has some things to say about the natural instrument of the hi-hat with a pedal and two cymbals stacked together, and how drummers approach that and how they play it.
Cool. Just before we do, I just want to say, because I've got bits and pieces jumping in and now and then. This is Art of Rock, guys. That's the URL. Jump on that URL. Twitch every Saturday. Adam, hit me, baby.
I will happily talk about hi-hats and Rozzy, you brought up like you at the end of your statement there, you brought up the first thing that I was thinking of, which is what is a hi-hat, right? Like I think the uh like the actual physical design of a hi-hat is kind of a brilliant thing if you think about it. Like somebody had this crazy idea at some point of like sticking a rod in a tube and attaching a pedal to it so that you could crash two cymbals together, like right, like in an orchestra, but with one hit. And of course that um uh, uh it opens up great possibilities of expression. Like hitting the cymbals when they're completely open makes a completely different sound than hitting them when they're tightly closed. And so I think a lot of the stuff that I'm probably going to be talking about today, like is relating it to the actual hit and the feel of playing on something, like, the things that are super important to me. So again, I want to say this, like, my record, actually everything that I've done, for remixing and all of that kind of stuff, none of that has any live drums on it at all. But I'm super, super picky about my hi-hats, and like the envelope on my hi-hats, like the decay, like how tight they are, how they release everything, because as you say, the groove is in the hi-hats.
Thank
I'll
you.
let somebody pay. Don't make me the only one talking
All right,
today.
all right, all right. So I'm going to jump in.
I mean, I can do it, but
Yeah. Diana, you're welcome to. I know Alex is eating pizza, which is shaped like a hi hat. Isn't that interesting? So, and if you whack the pizza on top of the thing, it goes flump, flump, flump.
if
Apparently.
you put two pizzas on top of each other,
Yeah.
do you put them cheese side?
Cheese side.
Oh, no. You wouldn't make them cheese side. They'd have to be the bake side because if it was cheese side, they'd stick.
That's part of the whole fun of it. Is
Yeah, that'd be a whole
stretching
different.
the cheese.
That's like if you have a bad spring on your hi-hat pedal and it doesn't open the way it's supposed to. You ever have one
No.
where you've worn out the springs, or the adjustment on the spring gets loose, so you like try to open the hi-hat and it goes.
Haven't had that experience.
Well, it happens to drummers because sometimes the little, it's a tension spring.
Okay. Awesome. Well,
Again, talking about the construction of a hi-hat, it's a brilliant thing, and there are a lot of little adjustments that drummers can make on the hi-hats, and like using different sized hi-hats, different thicknesses, they all make different sounds. When I played when I was playing rock and roll and I was playing the drums, I had hi-hats on either side of me, and they were totally different hi-hats. Like this was the crispy, bright hi-hat that I used more often, and this one over here was like dark, deep, fatter hi-hat, like
Cool. Thank you. Well, there's a lot that we're going to be circling back to. Razzie, I see your hand. My hand's in after you go.
I think the first thing we must acknowledge is what this instrument is named is still fucking hilarious. It's the hi-hat. The hat is high.
Yeah.
It strikes me as funny. It always will, if I think about it a little bit. But for the rest of defining what we're actually talking about here, it's might pay to mention that most of what we're really using in programmed music is a combination of two sounds that hi-hat the instrument makes, and that's a closed hat. It's a very short sound because the cymbals are tensioned closed together by the lever that your foot is on, and the open hats, which is a long ringing sound with some rattling depending on how you've got your open position set, rattling of the two cymbals, but it's got some sustain to it. So you can do this very interesting combination of phrases where some of the beats have short, some of the beats have long, and one of the hallmarks of the disco thing is doing the open hats on the off eights. So you've got your either eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and on the ands was where your open cymbal might be, and on the on beats where your closed ones might be. And that is kind of the basics of getting some articulation and groove out of the hats without using any of the in-between sounds or other articulations you can get with the instrument itself.
Fantastic. So if you've got a sample of a hi-hat, and then I want to get into making a hi-hat and playing something yourself, but if you've got a sample or an analog digital recreation of something, it really helps if you've got a different to be able to change the decay on it, the release. So on your 16ths, like the off 16ths, they might be really short ones, and if you can use an exponential envelope shape, so it hits quickly and it comes down. It's got a curve to it. And that's the great thing about the modules like the maths, is that you can control the envelope. You can actually control that exponential fallout, and that's great. And if you're actually making something where it starts building real big groove, really pretty groove into things where that length is different. Another thing also is if you've got like the open hi-hat, use a different sound if you can. It is technically the same sound and it's the same dynamics, but because there's alterations in it. It's not just the same sound but longer. If you are creating a different sound, then you might be still using the same noise, but maybe a different filter or something different. And it's a really, really good thing. And I'm all about getting samples of stuff, like banging something, and doing the aforementioned stuff with that. Like you might even have something that's got a really, really sharp decay, a release, and all you're doing is you're sustaining the note longer. And you can really start to get the instrument talking then. So think of it as you're muting it. So when you take your hand off the note, you're muting it. And you can get some great things talking. And there's just some really fun things to do. And think about it like, one of my favorite stories about the hats is when in Red Rain by Peter Gabriel, where he just had like I think it was a Lindrum playing eighths or quarters or something, tap, 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 just a button on a drum machine. And Stuart Copeland from the Police came in and he danced around it. And it's just fantastic. It's just so good because the hi-hats dance. And it's really, like I noticed before, Alex in the comments was saying that he, I just use a closed or an open on the off, on the and beat. That's great, but why don't you go and find something else and actually play it around there? Like play with it. Pretend you're Stuart Copeland and you've been pulled in on a Peter Gabriel session. Play with something. Listen to the music and see what does it suggest. And if you're not very good with your hands, use your mouth. Drum talk it. And then record that and line up the MIDI to sit with it or sit another instrument on top of it. There's a whole bunch of really fun stuff you can do to add groove and dimension to your music because I believe the hats is where the groove lives. Raz, I see your hand.
Yeah, one of the things that you're sort of alluding to there is when you're programming the patterns, having the concept of choke groups. A lot of drum machines and also sequencers have either limiting how many voices a pair of instruments can share or allocating several instruments sounds to one group that won't allow them to play all at the same time. And that's an easy way of not having to set the decay of your open cymbal, which if you're programming your hi-hats on 16ths, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and that's that whole eighth note. You might have an open hi-hat cymbal on it, and you want that to decay to stop immediately on the downbeat on the one. Putting them in the same choke group or giving them only one voice allocation will allow it so that whatever your decay is in the pattern, you could always add a closed hat on the next 16th note, 8th note, and it'll stop the decay of the open hat and get some of that. I've seen it written as psoup sound. And if you're putting vowels in it, pea soup, to describe the tone phrasing of open hat to closed hat. And being able to make that happen is, we're still talking about groove, and I wish we had our countdown to Stuart Copeland and Peter Gabriel getting mentioned running, because that didn't take long. But it is, of course, definitely the example that came to mind for me is Red Rain. The other articulations besides just open to closed, where there's a lot of openness and closedness and tension you can put on the cymbal bow between just open and closed and get, besides the pacing and velocity with which you hit them, some of the voice that changes as you open and close those things. And that's a step beyond just putting like choke group on it and doing some sort of pressure control, which probably outside of the range of most, certainly no analog drum machines come to mind that had that, and not really digital ones, but the electronic drum kits usually have a pressure control that'll do, I've never really looked into exactly how they do it. Maybe somebody else has, but there's some sort of velocity crossfading or a continuous controller crossfading between the closed tension symbol and the open tension symbol, so that when you put the foot down, you can get some of that other tonality besides just the open and closed.
Cool. Excellent. Adam, go. Thank you, Resi. Adam, go. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you so much. The variation between a very tightly closed hat and a slightly open hat is a big deal, and that was very much a big deal in rock music. Like, you'd hear like, okay, so I used to pick on a songwriter friend of mine because I said all of their drums were quarter notes in the verse, eighth notes in the bridge, 16th notes in the choruses. Right. And so you would just kind of close the hi-hat more as you got further along, because during the verses, when it was quarters, you'd have it a little bit peaked open so that the cymbals would rub against each other and slide around. You get whoosh, kind of sound to it, that trashier sound to it. Then of course, as you're saying, Carl, about and Razi, about having a cutoff, so that the sound doesn't play over when you're sequencing. Like, you do the same thing by tightening your foot down on the pedal, so that then when you're going to eighths, it's less and more. And then when you get to the 16ths, you push your foot down pretty hard on the thing, and it's and of course, using the open hats on any of those, from any of those kind of places is going to give it a little bit different feel. But usually when you go for the open hat, you go all the way, and you like all the way from the bottom closed, you hit it as you open the hat. So, right. That's, the clap of the cymbals coming back together is like, that's it, and so when you're doing it electronically, you can adjust the velocities and the envelopes too. I definitely feel like if you're doing electronic drum sequencing and you want to liven it up a little bit, humanize it a little bit, randomizing the velocity within 10% or so makes a big difference in getting some swing into the sound of the hi-hats. And I'm gonna say this, like, I really feel like hi-hats should not be ignored, like in any genre. Like, it is very much the upper end of your percussion, and it really like, I am a big fan of what I call a persistent hi-hat, like that just kind of cuts through everything in the mix, so that you've always got that groove happening, that holds your ear. But I think hi-hats are one of those things that they, like, the natural instrument gives you so much control over the dynamics of the thing, doing it electronically, it's maybe a little less intuitive, but like, I really do think that if you can bring as much of the variation and natural feel to your hi-hats in your sequencing and your electronic production, it's it's as effective as having an actual player. That this coming from a drummer, mind you.
I love it. Okay, thank you, Adam. Did I interrupt you then? Or you all right? I'm going. Resi, I had my hand up. I got a crazy idea. So, this is something I like to do. I use the noise engineering BIA. I'm not even going to try and say it. They call everything shit that I have trouble saying. Anyway, and it's really great. It's a little drum generator, and it's actually digital, but I don't hold that against it. You can get some bloody great things out of it. And there's a whole bunch of little knobs like fold and morph and all these things that if you change them a little bit, it changes the sound. It makes a fantastic hi-hat amongst everything else because it's modulating digital oscillators against each other, and it's a really high, shiny sound. But what's great is that you can also change the elements of the things that change the sound in the Court of King Correcticus by sending it a modulation source. And something I like doing is setting up an 8-note analog sequencer, which has it's set up to 16th. So in 8th notes, that's 2 beats. The first step is 0, the second step is 25, the third step is 75, the last step is 100. And well, actually, I'll do it so it's like 0, 20, 40, 60, 0, 25, 50, 100. So it's making a shape that goes to like 60%, and the second shape goes to 100%. Za, 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 za. Then you feed that into the buyer, and that the BIA, I call it the buyer, so that it's actually modulating the sound of the hi-hat. So it might be going ticka 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 ticka. So in each time it's got this formative bounce no matter what note it's hitting. And then you can be changing the decay, etc. of the sound also using magic doodads. And you can start making them dance, because you can start introducing things like the perception of pitch or the changing in harmonic content of the hat. Because when you're using a synthesizer, it's really good to be utilizing what it can do, not just be be inspired by the concept of tapping on a hat and having it half open so it's kind of like hissing on itself. But you can also take that concept and push it further. That's all I have to say, Rosie. What you got?
Sort of circling back to, you mentioned Groove at the beginning of it, and Adam started touching on it too. And I think what you're constructing there has elements of accent and changing the sound.
Yeah.
But one thing that I find it's kind of out of my range to even define is like what groove really is as far as timing goes, and like where you want to push things and where you want to hold them back. It's just not something I have a lot of experience with. When I play the drums, I sort of do things by feel. I'm not a trained drummer, and I don't know. I think there are people who can articulate that verbally. But one thing that we're sort of touching on is the groove is a predictability outside of the norm, outside of the grid, outside of the everything the same volume. And at least one of the things that I've found to be groovy, as far as I can claim to have ever been so, is alternate hits on your hi-hats get alternate things. So you've got almost a right-left feel. So your on ones are slightly higher velocity, your off ones, say with the left hand, are slightly lower velocity, consistently through the bar or 8 bars, your phrase. But also within each 4 bars or 1 bar, depending on how your song structure is, a little bit higher volume and velocity, if you're programming it, goes into the phrase each time. So you're at 90 through 100 in your MIDI velocity programming on bar 1, you're at 95 through 105 by bar 2, and etc. up through bar 4 until you've got something a little bit stronger at the end. Not so that it really dominates the song, but it adds between the left-right articulations and the ebb and flow of those things. You start getting something with some kind of story to it, some kind of feel, some sort of arc to the bar. But as far as like grooviness goes, putting your velocity in a predictable manner, even if it's not just that right-left thing that I was talking about, you start feeling some kind of a pulse that's greater than just the 16th notes, something larger, a macro pulse that's in there.
Yeah. And another really cool thing to do as well is that, I like putting an open hi-hat. I like having 2 open hi-hats. Like one's a half open, one's a full open. And the full open goes just before the 2 and the 4. So it's spa. So it's 1 and 2. 1, sta. 2, sta. So it sort of like falls into the beat. But a really nice thing to doing, and normally I do a lot of the groove stuff for me happens on it happens on the 16th. And it's the 16ths that have been pushed, but I think with hi-hats it's really cool to have the hi-hats behind the beat. Like those off 8s, just to push them back a bit. And it starts adding this really cool like funk boss thing to it. Thing you've got to be careful is your tempo, because the faster you get, the more that starts to break down. As much as I love really high tempo stuff, that's what does suck about it, is that it oh man, I don't want to talk about the K2000. So yeah, so that's a really fun thing to do. I just had this thought of something I really want to do. Does anybody else want to jump in at this stage? Hi, Chris Lakes Retro and Dane Saturday 13.
I just want to say I really want to go play drums now all of a sudden.
I know.
It only took 3 weeks, but now I'm like, I know where there's a drum kit, but I don't have a vehicle to get there. So.
But make sure when you're doing it, you record it. I mean, like,
oh, yeah.
So, you know, can you even like set up something on your sofa or something where you just, oh, this thing here is crappy sound as my hi-hat, and this thing is my kick, and this thing is my snare, and then you just play drums and record yourself. Then you take it in and just suck the beat out of that. You know, like either MIDI convert that to a groove, because I will tell you that everybody, you know, the greatest weapon you have in your arsenal is your voice, and the second greatest weapon is your groove. And everybody gives their groove to the computer, because everybody thinks they ain't funky, but you are funky. Whether the connectivity between your brain and your whole body playing drums isn't very good, or this isn't very good, there's going to be somewhere where the funk comes out of your body. And I'm not talking about going clicky, clicky, click. You might drum talk, because your groove is so important. It's galaxy important. Alex, how was your pizza?
It was very delicious. I don't know.
That's good. You should be more excited right now. You've just eaten pizza.
Yeah.
And all of us were watching you, Black, going, Alex is eating pizza right now. Right now, he's eating pizza. Was it one of those €1 pizzas?
No, it was a €2 pizza.
Awesome. Man,
On sale.
For those who don't know, Germany has the best pizzas in the world. And the they are, man. The €1 or €2 pizzas, they're so good. They're terrifying. Hold on, I'm just going to close my door. Give me a sec.
They're not that good.
Okay, I'm back. No, I'm telling you, man. And you could get one of those €1 or €2 pizzas, and you could put and you can put like a little bit of something on it, and you've end up with this banging pizza. And that's an industrial strength pizza, is when it's a banging pizza. Alex, damn it, that was my microphone. Talk to me.
If you want to play drums live but don't have a drum set, you could either use contact microphones and use those as triggers. I think there are several ways to set this up, like there are special hardware boxes for that, or there's probably some sort of software for that. And also there's an app for iPhones or iPads called Impactor, which uses you drumming on your table or so, and the impulses from the microphone get converted into drum sounds. You have to use headphones, otherwise it feedbacks. But it's really nice to just play something, and it's very expressive.
Once again, and I just saying thank you, Dame Saturday. That's really sweet, man. That's awesome. Once again, we're coming into the area of experimentation, and that's really important. And that's another thing that no one is going to do like you, is you're going to come up with these really cool, things. Like, I say, Well, thanks. Alex, I'm just going to paste that into the everywhere chat so the whole world can see it.
So the whole world can see it and be happy with their contact mics. Happy, happy, happy. Does this make you happy? Yes.
Oops, something went wrong. Yes, it did. Okay, so, everything's going wrong today. I don't care anymore. Talk to me more about experimentation. Go.
Well, if you want to synthesize hi-hats, you should first make a sort of metallic spectrum, which you could either use with FM synthesis or with filter FM or something like that. And then you just have to shape it with an envelope and maybe a filter envelope. So that's basically it. I did a hi-hat using the samples from your Patreon, where you sampled this chimney, I think.
Oh, yeah.
This tube. And I just pitched them up so that the spectrum was in the right region. And just did a short decay, and I had a close hi-hat. Sounds great.
Awesome. See, that's another really fun thing as well, is that, with that Chimenea sample, chugga, 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 Carl's banging out eighths right now, bada bum, and then you've got groove. It's groove in the sample. Not very good groove, but it's groove. Then when you scrape that thing, it's a really good open hi-hat. Speaking about scraping things, as you do, we're still streaming, aren't we? God, I want to punch my computer. I believe that Construction Time Again by Depeche Mode, because Scraping Metal, Depeche Mode, had no hi-hats. I believe one of the things they tried to do in that album is go, we're not using hi-hats. It was a third album or something. Was it the third or second? Third. That's pretty groundbreaking for your third album. God, so jealous. Fantastic album. So do it. Go get some contact mics. Go out into ye great yonder full world. And speaking of Human Groove, says Rainbow, Skinny Puppy's Too Dark Park is either all hand-played drums or sampled live on the drum kit. Yes, we were having a conversation about the Kevin given his YouTube video on Too Dark Park just before we started. And that album has blown me away for 30 years, and it still blows me away for 30 years to come, because it's just such a monumental thing. Everybody's got a how I got into Skinny Puppy story. My story is the best. But anyway, I digress. Oh man, that fucking album. Do we want to keep talking about hi-hats and grooves and stuff, or do we want to just go into La La Land? Oh, Rainbow Eater. Thank you. I'm not feeling like a lot of buzz this morning. Maybe I'm killing the buzz. I don't know what's going on.
I am by far not the authority on hi-hats, so I don't have anything to say.
Okay. But I like it when you just go jam and talking shit.
I think
Here's
it might be
Therese, go.
I think it might be a function of how much time each of us has spent on each of the instruments that we've talked about so far, as far as producing the sounds, selecting the sounds, going through libraries of the sounds, mixing the sounds. Kicks and snares are like 80% of working on a track sometimes. Hi-hats are like you just kind of run your finger along the 16th note grid and your hats are there, so you're done with it. That's how a song is made, right?
I think I just think that there's got to be more, like, have more of a drummer's approach to it. Like, listening to you and Adam speak, I'm really like going, I've got to, Alex, go. And by the way, I will say Korg Triple D1 is such a good drum machine.
Is that similar to the 5, the DD5? Is it the same family?
Yeah, it's same family. I think the 5's
sampled.
a smaller version, but the Triple D1's the grandpa version. And I thought it was Dr. Avalanche, and I was wrong. Dr. Avalanche was a fucking Yamaha RX5. I have an RX5 in storage somewhere, and it's got a cracked screen. Who cares? Alex, talk to me.
So if you going to do the drummer's approach, you also have to realize that a drummer only has 2 arms and 2 legs. So if you're programming a drum machine, remember not to put too many instruments in at once, because usually there's just one drummer, and if you put in too many instruments at once, everything will turn to mush. So be a bit more resourceful with your drum triggers.
Thank you, that's so true. And there's something I will say. Chris likes retro, always good to see you on here. That one of my favorite hi-hats is a floor tom. Instead of playing that on the hi-hat, playing on the floor tom, and you'll make it go waka chaka, waka chaka, waka chaka. At least I was impressed with that. And if possible, play it live. Go ahead.
Yeah, The Cure, The Figurehead comes to mind as sort of the ultimate expression of that technique. Slowed down a bit, a lot of drugs.
A lot of drugs.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. So do we want to keep talking about hi-hats, or is this going into territory? You are right. We have covered a lot of the groove and everything else. I want to talk about the K2000, which is then going to go somewhere. It's so weird. I had to stop using a K2000 because it's got such an instinctive sound. And there is a few sounds on that synth. No, too late. We're gone. There's a few sounds on that synth where it's like, they're so good. I use them on everything. And I've had to purposely stop using those sounds. It's like the Fairlight Sarah, whatever the hell it's called, that breath sound, which is on the Emacs, which is on the emulator too, which is everywhere. I'm not allowed to use it anymore because I use it everywhere. And the Emacs has got the K2000 has got this Solaris kind of replicated sound that's phased, and it's not actually phased. They put it through a bandpass filter, a notch filter, and it's just the best sound you have heard in your life. It just wraps around you, and it's like, I can't use it anymore. And that's my issue with the K2000, is it's just so good. I'm working on a song at the moment, and it's not working, and I hate myself, and I hate my life, and I hate you. And I hate my lyrics. I know, back at you. And it's like, I just can't, it's like I'm trying to milk a cow. And instead of milk, I want razor blades. Like, and I'm just trying to, and it's funny, I was whinging to Melody from Queen of the Static Opera about, I hate my lyrics, and I hate everything. And then I rewrote the lyrics like 4 times. It's the chorus, man. If I don't have a chorus, the song doesn't work. Like, it's, oh. And now I'm looking at the groove. It's really funny that when a song isn't working, you just throw stuff at it. Until you end up with tracks and tracks and tracks of crap. And then you're whittling through that crap again. And it's really funny, like, that is one of the things about
Get up and walk away from it.
I hate getting up to walk away from something. I hate it. I have to attack it now. But the cool thing about when you do that is your brain then recalls it, and your brain gets rid of all that crap and only remembers the good bits that it likes. Because if it's a crap bit, it's not really going to focus on it too much. It's just such a beast. It's such a cruel beast. And I want to write faster music. Anyway, whatever. I'm talking like 150. Party starts at 140. Yeah, dude. Angelspit always used to be so fast. But I figured out how to make it groove slower. But I want to go fast again.
I want to go fast again.
That's my new song. Pretty good, huh? But DJs won't play it. See? That's in my brain. Am I allowed to experiment? Because DJs won't play it. That rhymes, by the way. I think that's why I love Ableton. I can easily audition all the loops in random combinations and find my ABC sections. That's good. I like that a lot. I think that's why I love samplers, is I can just pile stuff. It's like going to So if I throw random shit at it, I can find a few different sections of my song. Says Rainbow X Eater. That's great advice, because with the sampler you take 20 minutes to stick it in there, and you gotta fart ass around, and then it doesn't work, and you hate everything. Adam, you have to rescue me.
I'm literally just jumping in to say that there's no reason DJs wouldn't play stuff at 150 plus beats per minute. I mean, I want you to think about some of the classic tracks in our scene. A lot of them are over 150, like Stigmata, for instance.
I need you to name a track that was written in the last 12 months that is over 150 BPM that everybody plays.
Like by a goth band or by an industrial band?
Either.
Ashes Fallen, Ballad of Mila.
How fast is it?
About 180.
Never heard it on the floor.
Yeah, well, the thing is that a lot of the new wave and post punk stuff, there's a shit. I mean, when I do my retro sets, I can easily play for. I have to like break myself out of playing at 140 to 150 or so, or even faster. And even with the modern stuff, like, I agree with you that a lot of the DJ stuff is skewed for the 128, 130 sort of range, because it's a very comfortable range, and DJs that are perhaps maybe not as experienced mixers, they find it easier to mix in that tempo. You know what I'm saying? But no, there's definitely. I mean, the problem that I have is that I'm always trying to find more stuff in those more unusual tempo ranges, because I want to expand the dynamics in my DJ sets. So I'm always happy when I find, like, seriously, like, as you said, it's got to have a good chorus or whatever, like, it's got to be a good fucking song. But like, I'm always looking for stuff that is in the faster tempos, and whether it's electronic or analog style doesn't really matter. I will mix them together,
Good on you.
So please, I mean, like, I'll make, like, She Wants Revenge with Ministry anyway, so like, go for it, do it. Like, write good fucking dance music at 150 beats per minute. There's not a hell of a lot out there. So if anything, by having really good fucking dance tunes at tempos that DJs don't have a lot of music to mix around in that tempo, is more likely to get your shit played, because we've got like 700 things that we can play at 130, but only 10 at 150.
Okay. I thank you for this. Dame Saturday 13, you are welcome to make suggestions for song ideas anytime. Here is my issue. And Adam just left. He just vaporized, and now he unvaporized with a cat. My problem is a concept of you making your own suffering and people spread it to others. A concept of you making your own suffering and people spread it to others. Thank you. Hold on. Unfortunately, Adam, there are not a lot of DJs like you. That when DJs get on, now we're turning into a DJ conversation, is that I rarely, like what's really interesting is that I think that the music started faster. Like when you look at the classic industrial and goth clacks, the classic clacks, they're faster. They're above 140. They're chugging along. But and that's like so obvious to go, okay, I'm going to mix something fast in here now. But they don't do that, because this is when we're playing our classic tracks. And people don't, if I play a non-classic track in here, everyone's going to sit down. I don't hear diva, and then when I play all the hear the new stuff at a club, I very, 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 very rarely hear anything fast. And I don't know, it's just been a bane of contention. And kids become monsters and a psychological horror idea. I love it. You know, this is the thing that really gets me down, is that, you know, sure, write a song and then get it remixed. But unfortunately, there is a bandwidth undeniably, constantly, that I come up again, which is 120 to 140. And if you don't play by the rules, very rarely do DJs venture outside those rules. And like I said, Adam, you're one of the few ones who do, and that's great. And no, but however, I hear a lot of DJs playing new stuff, and I'm hearing even more of that now, which is great. But you know, I think my thing is I just need to shut the fuck up and write goddamn music, regardless of how fast or slow it wants to be. And then if I want a DJ to play it, I need to remix it. Because that's fair. That's fair on them. They're not obligated to play something that is going to clear the floor. I don't want them to do that. I'm going to throw this to Alex now.
So if it's only maybe 1 or 2 songs on your album, maybe the risk isn't as high as if you're going to do this for every song in the album.
True. Also, this is a comment on myself as well, but I'll go into that terribleness after. Did you want to add anything to that?
I just wanted to ask you to if I understood correctly, that your K2000 is broken, or that you just don't want to use it.
No, it's fine. I just don't want to use it because it's just it ends up getting used on absolutely everything. And I need to spend more time programming. This is what's really weird, is that with the modular, you have to make sounds. That's how it is. You've got to make sounds. With the Emacs, it's easy and fast to make sounds. It's actually hard putting a sample into the thing. It's a pain in the cock. It only has half a meg of RAM. The K2000 has, mine has 32 meg. Or is it 24? Gee, I don't know. It's a million. But and it accepts WAV files, like PC formatted WAV files. I have to fart ass around with the Emacs. But once it's on there, I just don't know why. It's a thing. But once you get on it, you're on it. And you know, and K2000s are still kind of cheap. And they're 24 voice polyphony. You can stack them up to be 3 sounds, so it's only 8 notes polyphony. But they are devastatingly good synthesizers. They are so good. Yeah.
Well, if you're looking for inspiration, maybe you could try sampling yourself, like your old records or something.
That's an interesting idea. And I wouldn't get sued for that. I've never thought of that. What an interesting idea. Thank you, Alex. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add? I thank you for that. Adam, I'm going to throw it to you now, so I just wanted to hear from Alex for a bit.
Yeah, well, I feel like we've kind of moved away from the topic. But,
no, we could stay on this topic. It is a kind of an important topic.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna ask a chicken and egg question, and I'm gonna say, do DJs not play stuff over 140 beats per minute? Or is it because there's not much out there for us to play that's over 140 beats per minute? I think it's a little bit of both.
Or is it because people aren't comfortable dancing at that tempo, which is...
Okay,
I know what you're about to say, and I agree with you.
Yes. No, there's a very real thing there. There's a very real thing there that 120 to 130 beats per minute, you can dance all night to it. It's basically like, you know, double the heart rate kind of thing, blah, blah, blah. But as I said, you know, well, so a lot of it's going to have to do, things kind of come and go in trends as well. All right. So like, for a little while there, the trend was to do faster stuff, and like faster stuff was a little trendier among the DJs because there was a little more to work with. Does that
When
make
was
sense?
this?
Like in the 2012, 20 to 2014, 15,
How
or so.
fast
Around
is
the
fast?
150-ish plus beats per minute.
Really?
Like, it's like I was saying before, like I could mix She Wants Revenge and I could mix it with Stigmata. And so, I could take a couple of older tracks and like get the floor all juiced up and then play, like, which was new at the time, She Wants Revenge, play this fucking crossover tune, right? And then play like an old Joy Division tune after that. And I'm like, yeah, now I've got like something mixed in there that's got newer sounds, but like fits with the older sounds. And I've made a historical sort of transition, say, look, these are places that this is coming from. And like, but yeah, so, I really did like, okay, in a nightclub situation, DJs are probably not going to sit at 150 beats of right. What they will sit at 150 beats per minute of is
Yeah.
Like new wavy, disco-y beats.
Manchester.
I mean, for sure, yeah, but and then there's the other thing, which is like there are an awful lot of things that fall under the dark dance umbrella, and so like what the Winkle Picker crowd goes out onto the dance floor for at 150 beats per minute is a little bit different than what the Rivet crowd is going out for at 150.
Winkle Picker.
Yeah, pointy boots.
Oh, right.
And so the real trick, when you're a club DJ, is to get them both on the floor at the same time. But we need the tools to do that. So yes, please do make stuff that's 100. And so the other thing too is like you don't have to have something remixed to get the DJs to play it if the DJs are playing the kind of thing that you make. A lot of times I'm kind of like, oh, I prefer to play the original track because none of the remixes are the sound that I'm looking for. The original is perfect enough. Why play the remix? You know what I mean? That said, if you're trying to reach different audiences, with the music, if you've got industrial music and you want to, and you get like you want to reach more of an I don't even know. My mind is kind of blanking here, but like the idea that I'm getting at is like different producers produce for different types of audiences, right? And so if you want to reach a different type of audience, like, okay, you've got an industrial track and it's like 150 beats per minute. There's a lot of trance music that's like 150 beats per minute. So get a trance DJ to remix your 150 beat per minute industrial track, but turn it into a dance track with the elements of your track, and you're going to reach a different audience with it. Like your industrial audience probably, they'll think it's cool, but the industrial DJ is going to play the album version. The trance DJs are going to be like, looking to play what's going to work in their room, so again, and again too, it's going to rely a lot on what the groove structure is of the track, because if it's, if it's got some groove to it and it makes you want to dance, it doesn't really matter what the tempo is. The DJs are going to find a way to fit it in if it's a great song that everybody likes to dance to. Like, dude, Goo Goo Muck is 150 beats per minute, and look at and that's lighting up dance floors again 50 years later.
Okay. Awesome.
It's actually, it's probably, it's over 145 anyway. It's probably like up 148 or something like that, to get nitpicky. But yeah, so is Tainted Love though, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
And the other thing too is that if you've got a DJ who remixes it, for a different audience, you might end up with like a really cool like dubstep or witch house mix or something out of it that's half the tempo at 75, which is more typical for those types of remixes. But but that's my thing, is like, remixes ought to be so that you can kind of, well, there are a couple of reasons that you want to remix, right? One is you want different musical ideas in your musical ideas. You want somebody else's chocolate and your peanut butter, so to speak. And the other is because you want to reach different audiences with it, like, club remixes, like, and so, if you're finding a diversity of artists to remix your stuff, you're gonna reach those different audiences with it, potentially reach those different audiences with it.
I love
But
it.
like, don't be afraid to experiment with tempo. Again, like a great dance song at any tempo is a great dance song. Like, to be perfectly honest with you, like 150 plus beats per minute songs aren't super popular in meat market nightclubs either. But when, like, what was it? Magic came out, like, was that B.O.B.? Like, it got played everywhere. Or like Mambo fucking number 5, that's over 150 beats per minute right there. And like, you couldn't get away from that in clubs that were, like, for the most part playing 128 beat per minute Euro house music at the time. And then botch, 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 botch. Go for it.
Awesome, thank you. Hold on, Resi, just before I throw it to you, Alex, did you want to... I saw your hand up and then you didn't.
I think Adam already said it, but it depends on the scene. Because if you're... some DJs only play the high stuff. Like, I've heard DJ sets where it's like only there and it's the whole time. And it really depends on the scene.
Awesome, thank you, Resi. What you got?
Yeah, it's just come to mind that in a lot of ways, the ability to groove breaks down up there, above 150 for sure. And we're talking about 4 on the floor and groove in the same conversation as rock songs, which are backbeat based, which are fine at 160. And like, for whatever reason, the only song I can think of that's high tempo like that is Temple of Love by Sisters of Mercy. I think that's in the 160s, and it just kind of rocks because it's bashing out a backbeat instead of the 4 on the floor.
Punk rock.
So, yeah.
It's punk rock.
Yeah.
Like the Ramones. I Want to Be Sedated, 164 beats per minute.
Yeah. Different goals, different attitude, but still gets them out on the floor.
Interesting. Alex, I see your hand. I want to go in after you.
Yeah, for example, jungle and all its descendants like breakcore and drum bass are up there, and they are like super dynamic and interesting. They all use the same arm break, but still they're all very fast, or usually very fast.
I love it. See, one other thing is that 4 on the floor start falling apart up there. Something I like to do is have a really, really, really short kick. And if it's on a 4, it's low. Or use a tom. Like a floor tom, bashing it out. Meanwhile, the kick's going dung, 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 and the tom's just banging it, 4 on the floor there.
Cut that sample out that you just did and go make that drum beat, because I like that one.
That was Maggot. Angelspit track Maggot. Anyway, but thank you. And by the way, the Kurzweil has the greatest drums in the world. It's got the Castle drum kit, which is based on When the Levee Breaks. I've talked about it before. It's the greatest drum kit in the world. But and it's... That's what's really cool. Like, part of the thought about Groove up there is instead of pushing the 16ths to the triplet, push the 8ths to the triplet. That's some interesting shit starts happening there as well. Because the problem with higher tempos is everything is very robotic. And I really push hard for more shit to be played. Like that 4 on the floor Tom Tom, Big Tom. Who calls them Tom Toms? Big Tom, play it in by hand. Push that button. Don't click it in. So, because that's, if you're up there, it's got to rock. You're getting into like really aggressive rock territory. Yeah. So there are some more thoughts. A local techno DJ here in Iowa mixes a lot of drums and bass at high tempos. His sets are usually danceable all the way through. Yes, thank you, Rainbow X Zeta or Rainbow Zeta. Because another really cool thing about when you've got that loop going is that you can jump on a 4 so it becomes dish every now and then. And at the end it kicks into 4 and shit goes manic. Adam, give me wisdom.
You're so right about that, and I can dance before my neck collapsed, I could dance all night to drum and bass. I love it. I can bring it back around to the hi-hats again there for you, because if you think about when I was talking about or when Rozzy mentioned Sisters of Mercy and then I mentioned the Ramones there, I was thinking, boy, talk about a lot of character in the hi-hats. Right, it's like real sloppy. Like I started air drumming it, and I realized how like sloppy my wrist got when I started doing that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's that like sloppy wrist shit. And I think that's kind of what you were talking about before, about sort of like left and right-handed dynamics, like like weaker hand and stronger hand. Because if I'm trying to play something nice and tight, my wrist is nice and tight, and I'm using the bounce on the hi-hat. Like I have to have my wrist tight for the stick to bounce, right? So that it bounces.
So sexual. But go on.
And it oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like you gotta get a real nice grip on that stick, not too hard. It's gotta be. But anyway, but yeah, so it's a tighter wrist motion, and then when you're playing the something like Temple of Love or I Want to Be Sedated, it's very like splashy, very loose.
Yeah.
So that's a characteristic to think about in your hi-hats, is how would the drummer physically play it? Like a tighter wristed beat is not going to have that slop to it. You know what I mean? You don't play it like it's going to be stiff then. If you play the same thing with a stiff wrist that you do with the sloppy wrist, it sounds stiff. Not. You get me?
That's a very good point.
Drum talk.
Thank you. Reminds me of a Nik Kershaw song. Resi,
Drum talk.
Please don't.
It's a good tune, man.
It is great. That guy could slap a bass. That guy could slap a bass.
Speaking of slapping a bass, the thing that comes to mind with putting these drums in by hand against either your song or a click or something, Carol Kay said the metronome has to sound funky.
Wow.
And I've been puzzling over that for about a month and a half, and I haven't recorded anything new until last night, when I was putting down something that I was having a lot of rhythmic trouble with. I was not finding, and this is the acoustic guitar, 16th, 8th, 1 and 2, yeah, whatever, 8th, mostly 8th notes, beat division, and my metronome is on quarters, and the song doesn't have a lot of, it's got a kick drum once every bar, so there's nothing there to anchor to. But the gravity and inertia of your arm, or the way that gravity acts on your arm and the inertia of moving your arm, is, I think, something to really explore with these feels. And Adam just like nails it when he's talking about people bashing out the quarter notes on the open hats. You don't actually know when you're going to connect with the hat because it's moving. So there's some variance in there, and you adapt and you feel it incorporated in that was, I started hearing what she was talking about in listening to something that's extremely stable, using that as your reference point, and being able to bash out a groove or delicately, move around that solid clock to push and pull a little bit. And I was definitely feeling it. And it totally ties back to the Copeland hi-hats playing against the LM1, or and a lot of examples like that, where combining human elements and grid-based elements. But I just,
yeah.
Carol Kay really had a little bit of wisdom there. I mean, as a person who's played against more solid, rhythmic stuff than possibly anybody else in history, she meant something with that.
That's a really good point, because I saw Bootsy Collins. I saw him do it to a really simple beat once. Adam, take the floor, and then I want to talk about Nik Kershaw.
Okay. While we've been talking about this, I had a flashback to when I was in my teens, and there's this fellow, I consider him to be like a mentor to me. His name was Mike, and he taught me how to listen. He was like a classical music guy and opera and all that, and that's that's why I have the kind of background, some of the weird background that I have is because of Mike. He got me the job at the Renaissance Fair because he was an early musician, that kind of thing. So he was doing this production with the students, and they're a choir production kind of thing. And they're doing "Go Tell It on the Mountain," right? And he says this is like, and this is an example of the funk, right? He says there's the white people version, which is like, "Go tell it on the mountain," right? And he says, and then there's like the soul version is like, "Go tell it on the mountain." It's all in the body, and like. It's like percussion is like that. It's all in the body, and a lot of music is like that. That's why guitar players make that face, right? Is because it's in the body. And one of the things that I think, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, really, to achieve that strictly electronically, but it's it is something that we're I think electronic music has always kind of been reaching for, is to get feel out of these electronic instruments, and I think that's where the feel comes from, though, is the body. And like you look at the synth players and such that we grew up with and stuff, and these guys were like and they're like all over the thing, and they're like feeling it on MTV and all that. And like I really think that a lot of what we're doing with sequencing and the possibilities to fine tune and create variation and all of that is all lending itself towards like ultimately, I think, how do I feel this in my body?
Yes.
And that's going to be what makes the good dance song too, is how do I feel it in my body? Like you will know if it has groove because you feel it in your body.
Yeah.
Like if you feel it in your body, it has groove. I'm out.
Thank you.
Oops, wrong button.
I want to have a spiel, but I see lots of hands going on, so maybe I won't have my spiel.
Well, just before you do, if it's still about Nik Kershaw.
It's about Nik Kershaw.
Okay, I just wanted to say, Adam said bass talk. I thought girls talk, which is actually Dave Edmonds, who is in a band with Nick Lowe, Rockpile, but not Nik Kershaw. So whatever
wow,
I said,
you're so dismissive. Did you see the hands of dismissive going on there?
I didn't quite mean it that way. I just wanted to correct the record in case you thought I knew what I was talking about. I obviously didn't. Please.
So if you get a chance, Nik Kershaw, his album Human Racing, which my sister got in 1984 in March, and then in November they released The Riddle. He put out 2 massive albums in the 1 year. You need to listen to it. It's actually a very good album. Like, break down and listen to what's going on. Listen to the simplicity of pop. I believe he wrote most of the songs. The guy can play bass. Like, the guy can play bass. And what's curious about the album is when you listen to the drums and everything, it's like, yeah, this is overseen by a guy who can really play bass because he knows what he's talking about. There's a track on that called Drum Talk. Some of it's a little bit cringeworthy, but dude, there's some shit going on in that album which is really fucking good. And it's amazing how many singles. Look at this. Won't Let the Sun Go Down on Me was September 83. Then in January, Wouldn't It Be Good? Oh, look at this. Dancing Girls, April. Won't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, re-release in June. Then in September, Human Racing, Cloak and Dub at September. So he was like releasing something every 3 months and pushing them hard. I always find it interesting, like, look up an old album, look at the release schedules, look at the way they pushed it, look at the whole thing. It's really interesting, because a lot of this A plus B equals rock and roll thing, man, it still follows. So go listen to Nik Kershaw, Human Racing. There's a bit of in it. Just go with it, man. It was the 80s. A lot of DX7, unfortunately. And same with, then listen to The Riddle. Really good album. Ivan is about to say something incredible. This is a public service announcement. Ivan is about to say something amazing. Go, Ivan, go.
Let's hope this is amazing. Because, I mean, we're doing a lot of electronic music here, which means that we're spending an awful lot of time on the grid, that's just the way that it works. There are tools that are there to help a lot, especially, when it comes to adding groove to percussion. And, like, for one, like, for those of us that use Ableton, there's the groove pool. Do not feel bad about using it. Do not feel bad about, going and dropping an MP3 in and then just copying the groove out of it and using it for yourself, because, turns out that that's an easy thing to do. And that only gets you part way.
I just want to pause you for 1 second. Hold on, just 1 second. If you're watching this on Twitch, on YouTube, go over to the Twitch, because there's some really good conversation going on right now. Ivan, I'm sorry. Keep going.
It's okay. Check out Rast Sounds Naturalizer plugin. It attempts to naturalize your percussion tracks. So
what does that mean?
It messes with speed. It messes with intensity. Like, it does a bunch of actually very useful stuff. And like, to tell the truth, it ends up on particularly like hats and snares for me. It's invariably gonna end up there, just because, as far as I'm concerned, it makes it sound just a little bit better. And sometimes that little bit better is a lot better in reality. And yeah, it's like, there's a lot of controls on it, and I don't understand them all. I'll admit it. But messing with it, I'll find the sweet spot, and because it doesn't take that long, and again, the improvement is noticeable. Also, don't, like, it's easy to just program flat drums, into the grid, but you end up, you have to spend time with velocity. Like variance in the velocity is so important. It's not like it's sick how important it is, and it is continuously encouraging me to. I need to find a good set of pads that you can play with sticks, because I'm not a finger drummer. It's not happening. I hate it. It sucks. Sticks, though, they feel real. Like I'm actually doing a thing, and I need to find I'm going to need to find a good set of pads anyways, because I've got like Euro rack drum stuff on the way, and like I'm going to want to be able to play that.
What are you getting? Ivan, what are you getting? Ivan, what are you getting?
I'm getting the what's it, the SY1, the Kevin Key one.
Oh, cool. What is that? Is that a
It's
drum
gonna be
thing?
Yeah, it's two voices, independent, or you can run them together. It can act as a synth. It can act as a drum synth. It can just do percussion. It does a lot of stuff, and it sounds like freaking cool because it's crazy sauce. And then actually, was it the bass that you had recommended?
The BD9. You're getting
Yes.
a mutant drum.
Yeah, because why not?
No, really good, dude. And remember,
I'm-
you need to have a high pass filter on that thing in certain places, because it will.
And good news, I've got plenty of filters.
Okay,
I
great.
have filter choices, then the thing that I'm really trying to figure out is which one is it? Like was it Queen of Pentacles or Black Mar? The endorphins drum synth module, like, because their stuff is just good. It's just good. I like their stuff. It's easy to get along with.
Hey, can I ask you, what's a good
sounds amazing.
filter? Sorry, we just hijacked this. Gear acquisition syndrome is bad. Bad. What's a good filter? Go.
I really like the Wasp filter for like its waspiness.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've got 2 of those because I accidentally plugged one of them in backwards, blew it, and then had to go and replace parts. And while I was replacing the parts, I just went and bought another one anyways because they're cheap. And I appreciate the fact that it's like, what, $75? I mean, it's actually kind of cheap.
And here's a trick with the Wasp. If you use the high pass and turn up the resonance, you will get destructive bass because it's adding resonant. Instead of a low pass adds it to the top of the filter, a high pass adds it to the bottom. So you're going to get this huge bump of fat frequencies right at the bottom. Trick with high pass filters. You shut up, Alex.
And while everybody says you can't have too many VCAs, I don't have that many VCAs. But I do have a lot of different filter choices.
How many filters? Give me more filters. I'm thinking about getting.
Well, I've got like a whole row of filters, and I can't even remember which.
Well, you're useless. You're hopeless.
I have to go in the other room and look. So I haven't touched it, in ages. Like,
what do you mean you haven't touched it in ages?
What's it? It's all stuffed into this.
You know,
room,
if you don't touch your modular more often, you go blind.
I think I have to agree. Shit, if that's seeing, I'd rather stay blind.
I need a filter. I don't need a. I found that radio filter for $20 in the micro. Oh, go ahead.
Ooh.
We've just lost Ivan. No one really cares about Nik Kershaw. I'm sorry, you don't own it on vinyl.
There we go.
Thumbs.
This one.
What the hell is that?
Polyvox.
Ah, no, dude, I'm
Polyvox
over Polyvox. No, I'm sure that's a great filter.
It is, because it's crazy. You like crazy?
I've got a really good Polyvox. I've got the Red Dragon, the Mutant thing, and it's such a good Polyvox. And you can morph between 24 dB and 6 dB. And I thought I'd never use that, but I use it all the time.
Yeah, this is actually 2 filters, not one, and it's this thing's great. It's made in like Estonia.
Gregory, welcome, and Labyrinth, welcome. Okay, I just wanted to know. I need filter suggestions. I think maybe I don't. Jesus, I'm finishing the fucking album. Why do I need more synthesizers? You don't, Carl. Ivan, I want to thank you for making my gas worse.
I do my part.
You do. What's a food that makes you gassy? Baked beans. That's your new nickname. Baked beans, because you make the gas worse. Alex. And tell me a good filter.
The filter I've been wanting to get but don't have the money for is Depther has this one a stereo filter.
Yes.
But you can also patch it in a way that it's like a high pass and a low pass into hi-hats and something like that.
Wow.
And it's cool because you can control both at the same time, but also like you have a control for like the difference between the two cutoff frequencies. So you can, in theory, put an LFO into it and it will modulate left and right counter itself.
That's great.
So it's I don't think the layout is the best, but it's really interesting.
All right, that's great.
And also, I have a question for people who are better with DAWs than I am. I think you can automate the BPM. Can you also do that within one bar? Like have like the bar lag for a bit or something like that?
Yes.
Because that could be really interesting.
Yes, you can. What? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. On Cubase you can. I never change tempo. Never change tempo.
It's pretty easy in Ableton.
Yeah, I know, but I just don't do it. I don't know why. It's just a thing. Adam does?
I've done it in remixes I've done for you.
Have you?
Yeah,
Oh.
V is for voltage, baby. Listen to that one.
So how much do you change it by? How many BPMs?
Listen to V. Listen to V.
Yeah,
is
but
for
I can't
voltage.
listen to it and actually pick it. Like I don't.
Well, what I'm gonna say is I used all the BPMs in my V is for voltage remix.
So you went all the way down to 0.
Listen to the riser that I did. So what I did in yours is I started off at one tempo, then I do a decelerando to cut it in half, so it slows down and then goes to halftime, and then it goes super fast and comes back in. V is for voltage. Blah, blah, comes in on the 2.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
But yes, I used all the BP. I went from the natural range, then decelerate to halftime, then accelerate well beyond outer space to the point where it was like the knob was fucking pegged, and total chaos, and then return to the natural tempo. Yeah. Oh, I get so excited just thinking about it. It was one of my favorite things that I've ever done in a remix. I did a really cool scratch piece too, where I took your sample of Let's Make It Burn, and I stretched the burn and like do it all out on the turntable.
Bloody good remix.
Like, it was very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a bloody good remix. But that little part was like like the rest of the remix was like pretty straightforward and minimal, but that little part was the whole thing that was, my objective. How do I get here from there kind of thing in that piece. That was my challenge to myself, was to like get this crazy thing that I had in my head out. And
that's actually all right. I thank you. That's something I want to touch on, is how do I get from A to B? But first I want to throw this to the Res, and I thank you for what you just said. It was great. Res, fill me with
First
life.
off, Rainbow Eater not only dropped the Pearl Syncussion comment, but also the ham radio filter for $20 on Marketplace comment in Twitch, and I think that's
I saw that.
just about the pinnacle of what we could be talking about here. I had the Tama Techstar at one point, not the Pearl Syncussion, but that goes back to a different time with drum machines. But we were talking about pads to trigger them from, I think.
Yes.
And Ivan, maybe anything made in the last 15 years, don't worry about it. If you get an Alesis control pad for $100, it's 8 pads. Just get anything that's got rubber instead of plastic.
Or a D4.
Sure, yeah.
It's got trigger.
I mean, it depends on if you want it to have sounds in it, or if you just wanted to have a single pad.
Don't use.
And then alternately. Sorry, yeah. Alternately, if you want to have something that's not triggering stuff and you just want to get sounds out of it, the Korg wave drum. I think I've mentioned my love for that a couple of times. But
I really want
that
to
way
trig out,
definitely triggers out. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and MIDI out, because I'm always disappointed with the built-in sounds that those things come.
Totally. Yeah.
Let me know when I can bust
Wave
some
drum's a little
intel
bit-
on you.
Wave drum's a little bit different in that it has its own pickups and transducers and samples built into it, so you can actually do acoustic stuff on it. But it's not quite what you're looking for if you're talking about triggering your modular stuff. And also, I wanted to jump on what you were saying, Ivan, about the Groove quantized stuff. I remember the first time I dropped a Groove quantize on something that I had grid quantized, and was like, okay, maybe I can use this. Maybe that's okay. And I ended up taking out all of the tempo quantization and just leaving what it did to the velocity mapping. And you're spot on when you said that. Like, there is so much. This was imposing stuff that was maybe a range of 10 to 90 in some of the instruments, which was not what I was using at all. I was before that using, very unsubtle 0 and 127s, or 10s and 127s or something like that. But the amount of feel that it was able to impart on the same instruments just by doing the velocity changes, that was full groove. But I haven't used it a lot historically, but every once in a while, if you want to just like put something super incredibly human on your thing. You don't even need to keep the tempo quantization. You can just preserve the velocity adjustments that it does.
Yeah, no, I mean that's why like, even when I'm doing like bass lines and leads, I will always try to play it in with the keyboard and retain the velocity because then it feels more human.
Yeah.
Also, if you guys just buy a regular synthesizer, you won't need to shop for extra filters that come with it built in.
Hey,
But they're
that's an
always the
idea
wrong
right
one.
now. Or stop being a grouchy little bloody grouch Carl and use that K2000 you're always crapping on about. I know I should. I'm just such a horrible creature. Thank you, everybody. Alex, tell me about pizza.
So I've been really wanting to get a 303 kind of sound, and I was looking at prices for like the one by the company starting with B,
Yeah, which we
and
don't
the one
touch.
by Cyclone from France. But then I thought, well, I think I already have a filter that sounds a bit like that. Maybe I just use the Octatrack filter and call it a day because most people won't care anyway. That's it.
So the Octatrack's got that filter built into it, or?
It has a one with the 303 squelch kind of quality. It doesn't sound exactly the same, but it feels similar. Similar enough.
Dope's got that 303 filter. I don't remember what it is. It's the 18 dB low pass. It's a great filter. I don't think it sounds like a 303 though. It's a really good filter, but it doesn't sound like a 303. In my humble opinion, or maybe I was just using it wrong or something. Trick with Dope stuff is don't input the volume too loud because you're going to distort the input of it and then the filter has less effect, which sounds good because it's built to overdrive. If you take it past 70 or even 60%, it starts to overdrive. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. The answer is I don't know.
Well, I think unless I'm getting way more budget, that's the best option for me because the analog one, the Cyclone one is super nice, but it's like $300, and why not using the gear I already have?
Yeah.
And the sequencer probably is better anyway for me because it's not like this infamous 303 sequencer where you have to do math in order to input it right, or you just type something and get a random sequence.
That's really interesting that because I'm at a point now. It's like, I want a piece of gear. I don't. I've got to be really honest. I don't. And I was thinking, should I just get a whole bunch more modular stuff? And then I went, nah. Like I was thinking, if I needed anything else, I'd need another filter. And then I went, I don't need another filter. Like, I'm really, I don't know. I get to this point. I'm talking about this because I'm at a point with the track and the track isn't working, and I've been punching this track and it's been punching back really hard in the throat. It punched me in the throat. And it's winning this Pistols at Dawn kind of thing that we have going on. It's more like Machetes at Dawn. And the track's got these two parts in it, and Ivan actually inspired it, which was we were just outside Chicago's when the 303s kicked in. Good on ya. But I couldn't fit the we were just outside Chicago part with this other stuff, and it's like, I mentioned this last week that the part of the song is that the hex inverter BD9 goes manic with this crazy fucking crazy, and you can modulate the length of that 909 and you can modulate the sub, and then it's got a square. You like it's a sine wave kick, but you flick a little button and it becomes a square wave kick, and it's the maddest shit I have ever heard in my fucking life. It's crazy. And this track's just, I've been fighting with this song because there's all these really cool ideas that I'm trying to bash them together. And on top of it is this melody, and the melody's really sweet. It's this really sweet little pretty melody, and I don't know if anybody wants to kind of give me advice.
Is it the one you worked on in the live stream or a different one?
It's the same one. I've been fighting with, like, man, every morning I've been getting up at 4:30 for like, and working on it for like 4 to 6 hours every freaking day. And it's like, it's just, I think I'm coming to this point now where I've made sense of everything. And it's like, the problem I've got is like, this part of the song, which is really important, is lining up the joke. This song, part of the song, is the punchline. They've got to work together. Either it's going to be one super strong song or it's two really weak songs. So I'm just, and sometimes it's as easy as change the melody around so it's in the same perceived key as the verse. Or it's an easy logical step to go from that one to that one, you know, from that section to that section. So musically, it now works. Rhythmically, it now works. But, oh my God, there's just stuff, Alex. Stuff, and it makes me unhappy. Go. Make me happy.
So I listened to your live stream while doing stuff here, and I think the rhythm part sounds really great. And if you don't have any better idea, you could do something like a calm and storm dichotomy, like one part where it's going crazy and one part where it's like, if you're flying above the clouds and suddenly everything is clear, then you go down again and the storm is added again. I don't know.
I like that. That's a really cool idea. Yeah, more shading, more texture. I love it. That's it. That's what I got. Does anybody else want to throw anything in, or are do we feel like watching some MTV TV? Yeah? I see Adam's hand.
Hello, I returned. Did you? I apologize because I had to go up and use the facilities for a moment there, but I heard you saying that you were looking for ways to transition from one part to another because you're having an awkward time, I guess.
Yes.
Gathering. Would you like to talk about that for a moment, or do you want to save that for like next week? No, you need it. You need it sooner than next week, don't you?
Yeah, Adam. Alex gave me a really cool idea. Like some other things I'm doing. Sorry.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that idea. I'm sorry.
More light and shade. And like sometimes if you're going into something like there's crazy ferocious kick drum going on, like crazy ferocious, and that's part of the joke. That's part of the gag. It is 909 obliteration. But then when it goes to it, it just goes slam. So what I'm doing is I start, like the 909 obliteration happens after the chorus. So in the chorus, the kick drum pattern starts with the 909 start. And then it hits. So you get you hear the thunder before the strike. Another thing is that going into and out of it, like there's a really awesome, as you'll find out with this thing, the BD909, is you can make, like I'll set a MIDI controller to control the length of it, and when you hit a certain thing, it just opens, and it might take 4 bars for it to go, for it to die out, and I do another thing where it pulls the bass out, then it sucks it back in, and everything just quivers. So I'm just mucking around with trying to make it work, and it's really nice that I'm actually playing. But man, I'll tell you, it's interesting that the really big thing has been the lyrics. That the lyrics aren't there yet. Like the chorus isn't. It's not fists in the air, fuck yeah yet. And if the lyrics suck, I can't move ahead. I can't do a thing. And I've just been trying to get them to just absolutely deliver thumping hell. That's all I have to say. I do see Alex's hand, and I know you wanted to say something. So, do you want me to throw it to Alex first?
I was just saying if you wanted to talk about like just throwing out some general ideas on kind of getting from one musical idea to another, we could run down that rabbit hole. I have a few things that pop to mind, or we could save it for another time.
This could be a good thing for next week, because I think it will turn into a huge thing.
I kind of feel that way as well.
Yeah, and this is a really good topic. So let's talk about getting from A to B, it's a Hobbit's journey, and back again. Thank you, Adam. I'm going to throw it to you, Alex, and then we're going to raid to MTV TV. Alex, go.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask simply, you had this very ethereal triangle or sine sound. Was that the sound you wanted to do for the melody?
I don't know. No, the melody I'm still punching with. The melody I didn't actually play on the track. I didn't play during the thing. I think I played it at one point, but I didn't want to. The melody is now on the modular, and it's going through a whole bunch of shit, and it's being modulated. So when it gets modulated, the thing falls apart, and it just becomes really aggressive. That sound was me banging something, and it resonated, and that's the resonating area that was looped. And I sucked everything under 500 out of it, and noise, because it was like outdoors, so I had to suck all sorts of noise out of it. But what bummed me about that sound is it was way more ring sine wavy. I wanted to hear the metal kind of, you know how metal modulates a bit, the beauty of, when you strike something, and when that becomes a pad, the pad starts breathing. I think I have to fuck it more. And I put some pitch bending in there, so it goes bing. So it ever so slightly goes up, and then just so it's creepy. Oh, it's just another thing Anyway.
I really like that sound.
Thank you.
Maybe you can put it in the background as a melodic backdrop or something, but I think it's a great sound.
The sound is in there, and I'm going to put those... I'm going to be turning all of the tracks on the new album into little sample packs, and they'll all be on the Patreon. I might even put them in the Kickstarter as well. Gee, I don't know. Maybe, yeah. Because they're all me bashing shit and throwing things down the stairs. Did I release that track? I don't think I have. So, Adam, can you remind me that next week, let's talk about A into B and then back again. A Hobbit's Tale. Awesome, you're the best. And everyone, I want to thank you for your input today. It's been great. We're going to go to MTV TV because there's something amazing on MTV right now waiting for you. Diana, let's raid. Thanks for also joining us in the chat. You're bloody awesome. You rock. We love you. Bye. 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 Bye.